Hello and welcome to the Weight Free Wellness Podcast. I'm Tara Bachland, your hostess and the creator of the Weight Free Wellness Podcast. And today is episode number 42, You Are Not a Body Type. And this totally goes hand in hand with episode number 41, which is what is body typing? And it's really much more of a philosophical discussion. And any other time that I've been discussing this, it's been either one-on-one or a group where I can see if people's heads are nodding and they're getting this. So I'm going to do what seems like the impossible and discuss a philosophical point with no one on the other end to really gauge if you're getting this. But it actually is a topic that I've talked about a lot, teaching body typing, because it's a very important one, and it's about labeling. And I think could branch into a number of other topics. So I'm going to try to keep it really clear and concise here. And it would be a great topic also to discuss online. So I'm emphasizing that you are not a body type. So I teach body typing, and we use the language, what is your body type, or this is my body type. But I'm going to explain a little bit here. In my last podcast, I explained what body typing is. And in this post, I will be describing what it is not. Body typing identifies patterns. It's a way of describing. It's not a label. I help people understand their body type tendencies so that they can break non-helpful habits and adopt new ones that help them feel balanced. You have body type tendencies, which is the language that you'll usually hear me say when I start teaching, but you are not a body type. And that's what's challenging is if I were to be writing on my website, see what your body typing tendencies are in my body type quiz, that would, first of all, be a mouthful and just doesn't sound like the regular language that we use. So while you'll see that I'm using both forms of language, know that what I'm describing in this podcast is really the philosophy behind body typing and the way that I prefer to speak. So I prefer to say body typing tendencies rather than saying that you are or are not a certain body type. Just like you may have a disease occurring in your body, but you are not the disease. Whether it's your body type or disease, it's wise to refrain from saying, I am this body type or I have this disease. And here's why. It's a brief explanation. Former medical school professor and early cell cloning scientist Bruce Lipton, PhD, wrote an enlightening book called The Biology of Belief, describing how the environment influences cellular growth. Experiments show that even the thoughts of those conducting this experiment would influence the physical outcome of cells. He draws the conclusion that how we think indeed does influence our physical condition. That is, what you think, you become. And this is why I emphasize to be very careful what you say you are or have. Even something as seemingly innocuous as body typing, this is the most challenging aspect of body typing to teach, and part of this has to do with the English language. And you'll have to forgive me here, I'm going to do my best to illustrate. In the writing of this, I use all kinds of italices and so forth to make it clear. So I'm going to emphasize a lot with my voice here because it is a challenging thing to emphasize. If you happen to speak other languages, particularly the Latin languages, it'll help because they do have this distinguishment. But for those of you who don't, you'll be getting a little language lesson here, but I'm going to do my best to make it non-painful, okay? So just bear with me. So the reason I get into being careful about saying who you are or how you are or what you have is because of this. In some other languages, there are different versions of the verb to be. In English, we say, I am happy, you are happy, she is happy. These are examples of the verb to be conjugated for I, you, and she. But it's not the fancy conjugation that I'm trying to point out. It's this. Being happy is a temporary state. For example, if you say in English, I am a woman, you are a woman, she is a woman, you are using the same verb to be, and the same conjugation for I, you, and she, but being a woman is a biological state that is a permanent condition as opposed to the temporary state of being happy. And of course, that's without the current transgender topics included in that. We're just keeping it simple here for this topic. Another way to look at this is the difference between you are, which is a temporary state like being happy or sad, or you are, and in this case I've capitalized A-R-E, which is a permanent state like being a man or a woman, or where you are originally from, where you were born. That's a permanent condition. You can't go back in time and be born in another location. So that's another example of where you say you are from somewhere is just as permanent as you are a man or a woman. And if you know Spanish or Portuguese, for example, the verb to be and conjugated is also used as are. There are different forms of the verb, of course, is estar, and to be with a capital A-R-E is ser. Similar to the verb to have, this is a very strong word that links conditions or states like I have. If you say I have a disease, you're making that a very strong connection. It is very similar to the word that we just made up, which is the capital A-R-E. So since we don't have that distinguishment in English, like other languages of the estar or ser in Portuguese and Spanish, for example, I just made up the distinguishment, and the temporary state of to be, the verb to be, is the small letters A-R-E, and the more permanent condition, which would be ser in other languages, is the capital A-R-E. So if this is at all confusing, it's actually a lot easier to read. And I would encourage you to go to weightfreewellness.com, go to episode number 42, and just at least read this section if that's at all confusing. So this is why we ask which body type you are, small a-r-e, or are, capital A-R-E. Why does it matter? Again, this is more of a philosophical question. When a person is first seeking to discover solutions to a problem, it seems to help to identify or to label, to have a name for the ailment. So for example, I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which explains my uncontrollable weight problem. Or my wife is a narcissist who will not seek help with me, which is why I cannot be with her anymore. Those are both examples of you've obviously gone through some very troubling times, so it helps to label what the condition is. Now, when you're going through troubling times, it feels good to identify the problem and name it. It's like you've been on a long, troublesome hunt and you finally caught the game or found a prized patch of mushrooms after the tiresome search. So I'm giving a clause where I can understand why that would be helpful. And we do have to be careful. The problem is that when you label it, you are stuck with it. When it comes to health and the health and wellness journey, many of us, especially if you're listening to this, are seeking improvement. And then I've mentioned in other blogs and podcasts that our thoughts and intentions are very powerful. They're so powerful that our thoughts and intentions can dictate what happens in our lives. And again, I really highly recommend the book, The Biology of Belief. The body type elements are not meant to be used like labels for disease. And again, indeed, I think one should be careful about even labeling themselves with a disease or ailment. But I can expand on that in another podcast, perhaps. Body typing is not meant for labeling. It's a tool. Like any other tool, you use a tool when it's helpful, and you pick up and use another tool for another situation. You use the tool, but you are not the tool. The relationship between you and the tool is temporary, as in small a-r-e, not capital A-R-E. So getting around language. In the English language, there really is no way around it. I am still faced with writing and saying and asking, find out which body type you are. And at the same time, I want to emphasize that while you may experience signs of your primary body type your whole life, even if that it seems to be true and permanent, this is not a sentencing. This is not you are a fire type, for example. Things can change. And change is important. Change is scary to most of us most of the time, and more than you may think. And if you don't think so, play with me here. What's your absolute favorite product for your hair or skin, for example? And what if the company decided to reformulate? Now don't freak out, right? They'll still make the product. They're just going to tweak it a bit. Yikes, right? And that's something relatively minor. And it really illustrates that if we can freak out about such small things, it shows us how attached we are to this condition, the state of things, of the big things in life. But I want to emphasize that change is important. Without change, our lives become stagnant, boring, and bit by bit, we die. And bits of us die each day. And that's okay, and that's even good, but we also must renew. And this is very important. I mean, this may seem like really dramatic words, that parts of us die and it's necessary. It sounds very, very poetic, right? It's true, and it's necessary. If we had the same food every day, all day, first of all, we would get bored, and second of all, we would actually, more likely than not, we would suffer from malnutrition, because you need a variety of food. For an example, to not only, it's interesting, it's like our body works together, that we seek flavors for the nutrients that we need. So we need that to renew ourselves, not only kind of in an emotional way of seeking renewal, but your body literally needs it also to repair. So it's a little sidetrack. Hopefully that illustrated a little bit more. And we're going to move on to why you should be, a small be, more than be. And the small be being the action form of the word. So I know that there is so much desire in teaching these days on how to be, the capital B-E. That is to be authentic, to be you. Now let me share something with you. You may already know this, but it's really important to know that you already are you. This is a given. What's getting in the way is all the little B's and to be's and R's and am's getting in the way of you being you. If you mistake yourself for being a body type rather than just observing your temporary state, you mask, you cloud your true state of being you. And going back to the tool analogy, if you mistake yourself as the tool, that you and the tool are one and the same, that is part of your true being, you're actually not able to see all your true self. So be mindful of what is around you and what is you. Body typing is the journey of taking perspective of yourself outside of yourself. Now, if this is seeming a little bit tough to grasp at all, just listen and just let it soak in. And as you learn more about body typing, each one of these concepts will make more and more sense. So be flexible and make space to change. Very little is permanent in this life. Just like the tree, you go through seasons, storms, ailments, and regeneration. Be mindful of what you consider to be permanent, especially diseased or ailing states. Instead of saying, I have such and such disease, say, I'm experiencing this right now, but it can change at any time. Or once I am familiar with an audience, I will say, I show signs of this body type right now or usually, rather than saying I am or you are this body type. So to put it plain and simple, I'm going to put it in much simpler words, hopefully. Body typing is a tool. You are not the tool. The tool helps you to gain perspective of yourself, to identify patterns that help you feel balanced. to help you to feel balanced, and those identifying those patterns also that work against you. You are the sum of your thoughts, so be very mindful of what you think and say. Body typing is a concept, a way of thinking to help you gain a helpful perspective on yourself. You are not a body type, but you can think body typing. Now again, I know this was a bit of a journey down the rabbit hole as far as things go, and I encourage you, if you haven't already, take the body typing quiz and find out, this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek statement, find out which body type you are. Now you already know from listening to this that I don't mean that you are permanently a body type, but it's a way of gaining insight for sure. And you can also learn more about the foods, the exercises, and the habits that help each body type feel more balanced in my book, You-niversal Self-care. And of course, there are previous blog posts, podcasts on this topic, and there'll be many more because it's a fascinating topic that can relate to so many things in life. And you'll find the links for that at weightfreewellness.com. In the right sidebar, you'll find the link for the body typing quiz, and also you'll find under categories the body typing category, which will index all the podcasts that even mention body typing. And it's a fascinating topic. It can be really, truly helpful. And I encourage you and welcome you to explore more. And thank you so much for listening. And until next time.